All right, another solo episode talking today about getting ready for a competition. Shout out to my boy Jeordie for suggesting the topic. Originally, this was going to be like for coaches, but I've decided to make it a little bit broader and just talk about it in general because it's relevant for coaches and for lifters. I'll start by saying Zero has a free powerlifting coaching course that covers all of this stuff. And it's actually not bad for lifters as well, even if you're not getting into coaching. It covers all the basics. And I like to revisit the basics because you'd be surprised how many experienced lifters and coaches just don't know the rules or some of the finer rules and get caught out as a result of that. Or we're in a unique time in powerlifting in Australia, especially where there's been handovers of the IPF Federation, so that's changed, and there's some misunderstanding around some of the rules. Rule books are frequently updated, and the biggest federation currently, APL, has a slightly different rule book than most of the traditional feds have had in Australia in the past, and we see a lot of lifters get tripped up because of that. So the first point of this is literally just registering for the competition, like buying a federation membership and registering for it. And it sounds simple, it sounds dumb. This is especially, so remember, the lens you're looking through for this advice is going to be coach's lens and lifter lens. Lifters tend to be lazy, and they tend to just be like, I'll register for it when I get the chance. Competitions these days, with the growth of powerlifting and the popularity of powerlifting and the quality of powerlifting in Australia, tend to sell out pretty quick. So get onto it as soon as you can. Don't delay. You don't want to miss your chance. You don't want to miss your spot. Powerlifting coaches, understand that lifters tend to be this way. It's your job to remind them and to push them. Hey, did you register for that comp? Have you registered yet? Go ahead and register. These competitions sell out. You should know that. So step one is as simple as be in the comp in the first place, right? Step two is to understand the personal equipment requirements. And it's good to understand this well in advance. Again, this is simple advice, right? Understand soft suits. Understand that you need knee-length socks for deadlifts. Understand that there are specific equipment requirements or dimensions for wrist wraps, for knee sleeves, for elbow sleeves, for belts, etc. Understand what is and is not allowed in the federation. If you're competing in the IPF has brand restrictions. You have to use IPF-approved branding, depending where you are in the world and how stringent they are on that kind of thing. But make sure you understand what is and is not okay in your federation. There are so many people that buy, say, the A7 soft suits that have a little rubber strip on the inside of the leg that then get told at the competition, no, you can't actually use that. So make sure that you understand what is and isn't allowed. If you don't know, if you're not sure, just email the federation. Just message them, email them, whatever, and say, hey, I've got this brand, this style of suit or wraps or belt or whatever. Is it okay? And get it directly from them. Because that way, if you show up and they say, hey, you're not allowed to wear that, you can say, well, you told me you are. You've got something direct from the source. There's no ambiguity. Make sure you have it. And have it far enough in advance. Don't leave it till the week of the competition to order the soft suit and then find it gets lost in the post or it doesn't show up in time. Make sure you've got it. Make sure you're ready. Again, very simple, but you're trying to de-stress the process as much as possible so that all you have to think about on comp day is executing the actual lifts. You need to know the technical rules of the lifts, and you need to apply this in training. It won't be there on the day. You have to do it in training. So understand that you need to hit a particular depth. In squats, for example, understand that you have to pause on the chest for bench press. These are the obvious ones. Some of the less obvious ones that can catch people out. If you're in a federation that allows a monolift, a lot of people unrack the bar, the monolift gate swings out, and they just dive into the squat. No. You're going to have to wait for the squat call. If you walk out your squat, it can be it can be a habit to, on the last rep, shift your balance forward to start the walk-in procedure when you get to the top, which can make you jump the rack call. Same thing on bench press. A lot of people tend to push the bar back on their last rep to chuck it straight in the rack. Understand that you're going to have to hold it and wait at the top of the lift for the commands. Don't get in the habit of throwing the bar down on deadlifts. If you do it in competition, and I've seen this happen even with super experienced lifters, they throw every single weight down on the floor, then they get to competition and they just forget, because at competition you go into you go into autopilot. It just happens the way you've trained. So make sure you're training in the standard that you need to pass in the competition. You want to do this well in advance as well. Don't leave it till a couple of weeks out to be like, oh, actually, I need to pause my bench. Oh, actually, I need to hit depth on squats. Make sure you're thinking about this from the get-go so there are no surprises. Further than that, that's just like the simple technical rules. Understand the calls. Understand when you're going to get them. Practice them in the competition. If you're a coach, practice them with your lifters. Give them an idea of what to expect. Understand exactly how the lifts are going to go down on the day so there are no surprises on competition. Oh, I have to wait for the rack call? Yeah, you do. And as a coach, it's easy to forget this because you know, and especially if you're an experienced powerlifting coach, you know, and therefore you kind of start to assume that everybody knows. And lots of people just don't know. This is especially the case if you get a really strong novice. You know, the stronger the person is, the more you just assume that they know powerlifting just by virtue of the fact that they're strong. So you assume they've been doing it forever. Maybe they're brand new. You see a lot of strong novices make very simple mistakes on the day just because no one ever told them, hey, don't do that. And no one ever gave them the practice in their training, or they didn't practice themselves because they didn't take the time to learn, and it can trip people up on the day. You need to know the individual rules of the federation that you're competing in, and then use that to your advantage when it comes to strategizing for the day. So you need to understand when you can and can't change openers, for example. You're warming up with a lifter, or you as the lifter are warming up. You're 10 minutes out. Can you change your opener? Yeah, you can. You're 1 minute out. Can you change your opener? No, you can't. So you need to know what the specific restrictions are on things like, can you change your opener? When do you need to submit an attempt? You've got 1 minute after you get the platform in most major federations to give your next attempt. If you don't, they input the attempt for you, and it's just the smallest possible jump. And even if you're 10 seconds late, you can't come back to the table and be like, oh, I forgot. Sorry, it's going to be this. They have every right to just say, no, you can't do that. And it sucks. Like as a meet director, I've done this to people, and it sucks. It's not fun to do. So make sure you're prepared. Make sure you understand exactly how the flow of the competition is happening, what the rules are in terms of when you can change attempts, when you can contest a lift, what happens if the bar is misloaded, what happens if the spotters grab it early, what's the procedure with that. You need to understand this. Otherwise, you're at the mercy of the people running the competition. And I mean, as kind of embarrassing as this is to say, as someone who's so deeply entrenched in powerlifting, there are a lot of meet directors that don't actually know some of the finer rules and then have to scramble in the rule book, which is understandable. I mean, the rule books are quite long, but it's best for people to know this stuff so you know exactly what's going to happen. Otherwise, you just trust what the person's saying. Make sure you're aware of the rule book when certain things like that happen, so you can make the right call, or you can contest the lift, or you can stop the competition and make sure the right thing happens in terms of the procedure. It is very relevant to understand the rules of what happens in powerlifting competitions if you're a lifter or a coach. Isn't it so weird to say that? You know, people come and play the game and they don't know the rules. It's kind of weird, but it happens all the time. Like, I mean, every single competition, it happens to some degree. When I say strategizing, this is as simple as understanding that in pretty much every federation, you can change your third attempt deadlift twice. In some federations, you can change your third attempt bench press and bench press only. In some federations, you can change your second attempt deadlift once. There are certain rules in place to help strategize to formulate a win. With that said, understand how winning works. You can win on body weight. You don't have to out-total the other person. Understand what happens in the circumstance where two people of the same body weight end up on the same total. There's no such thing as a tie in powerlifting. So understand what happens in those circumstances so you can be prepared for it. For the record, in those circumstances, what happens is the lifters are immediately weighed in after the competition, the lighter lifter wins. But then what happens in the circumstance where they both get weighed in and they both end up weighing the same? Now, obviously, this is like a 1 in a billion chance. I've been in powerlifting since I was 18 years old, and I've never seen a competition decided by that, but there are rules in place for what happens in those circumstances. So understanding the full rules of powerlifting, going through the rule book with a fine-tooth comb at some stage, if you're a powerlifting coach or a powerlifter, is going to be helpful. You need to know the rules of the game if you're going to play it. This one needs to happen well in advance, and that's knowing the weight class. I've seen so many peaks, so many performances ruined because someone just wasn't prepared for their weight class. I've said it a million times if you've followed me for a while on various podcasts, on my stories, whatever. Powerlifters do weight wrong in powerlifting. They do body weight backwards. So what they tend to do is like, oh, I've done my comp, I made weight, now I can relax. Now I'm just going to eat whatever I want. My next comp's not for 6 months. 6 months rolls around, they're a few months out of that comp. They're like, oh, I better tighten up my diet and make weight again. Then they reduce calories. They put themselves in a deficit in the most crucial training blocks working towards the competition. The foundational strength blocks that precede the peak. You want to be firing on all cylinders, and you're not going to be doing that if you're in a calorie deficit. What you should do post-competition, get as lean as possible and then maintain your weight and eat even into the calorie surplus while you're going through your final strength and peaking blocks. But a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people just relax, get fat, and then have to pull it all off when it comes to competition time. So be aware of what the weight class is. Be prepared for the weight class so you don't ruin your peak by doing a stupid weight cut at the end. Now, you can do weight cuts clever. You can do them, intelligently, but the more you can avoid cutting weight, the better your performance is generally going to be. It's one thing that happens in powerlifting as well. People cut for every comp, and then they become blind to their performance being poor. They just get used to poor performance. So the first time, if you've been cutting for every comp, the first time you do a comp where you don't cut and you eat into it, you're going to be mind blown by how much better you perform with some food in your system. You need to understand how the flow of the competition is going to go, whether it's in sessions or flights, and have a bit of a crystal ball in terms of timing. And then you have to be able to adapt according to the day. So like, for example, you can look at a flight list on a piece of paper, be like, okay, I've got 3 flights of 11 lifters in session 1. This is going to be quick. It's only 11 lifters per flight. I'm going to have, short rest between each round, and then get to the day and find out the spotter and loader crew is really inefficient and they're slow and it's taking forever, and you have to slow down what you sort of prepared for. So be able to sort of half predict what the day is going to be like, but be willing to adapt on the day by what's happening in front of you, and then time your warm-ups accordingly. Basically, it's like know where you are in the order of the flight, and then time your last warm-up to be in accordance with that in the flight before. So what I mean by that, say you're in flight B, flight 8 is out on the platform, they're doing their lifts, you're in flight B, you're warming up. If you're the first in the round for flight B, you want to be doing your last warm-up when flight A is in the last round and the first lifter in that round. So you've got a whole round to rest and recover, because that's what it's going to be like when you're out on the platform. If you're the last lifter, you're going to do your warm-up last, like right before your flight actually starts. If you're in the middle, you can do it in the middle, that kind of thing. Then you're going to time your warm-ups backwards from there. So if you are doing this for bench press, for example, and you're a female or you're coaching a female whose bench press is 35 kilos, 40 kilos, you're doing like 3 warm-ups. You're doing the bar, you're doing 30 and maybe one extra thing, something like that. You don't need to start warming up 45 minutes before you're going to be lifting. You need to start warming up like 10 minutes before you're lifting. This is the panic mode that every powerlifter and every powerlifter coach gets into. Some person without fail starts warming up way too early, and then everyone sees that and they're like, fuck, I better start warming up. And then they all start warming up way too early. Warm up the same way as you would in training. Don't change anything. In order to do that, you need to have a bit of a crystal ball in terms of predicting the timing of it all, and make sure you stick to that. And sometimes you have to speed up or slow down based on the efficiency of the competition. So a lot of the times I've had lifters where we're warming up and we're like, this is moving pretty quick, we better bang out a few warm-ups. Try to do that in the bottom end. So like if you've got a lifter warming up to 250, you notice that it's moving quick, try and bang out, the 70, the 120, the 160, whatever, really quick, and then slow down and then plan out your last few warm-ups so you've got plenty of rest between them. Always try and do the first few warm-ups quickly, and then relax and rest through the last couple of warm-ups, because you don't want to do the last few warm-ups quickly. That's a real shock to the system. And if you're doing that, you're going to be panicking. That's going to put panic in the lifter. It's just a bad time. So, I mean, that's a big piece of advice to take out of this. If you're a coach, relax, just chill. Don't be panicked. Don't be pushy. Don't appear flustered, even if you are flustered, because your lifters will read that, then they'll get flustered, and it's going to be bad for their performance. You got to be chill. You're the zen for the day, and they will feed off that. You want to keep them calm so they can switch on when they need to switch on. So understand warm-ups and time it properly. Understand the timing around attempts. I said that one earlier. And finally, I mean, I could keep going on forever about this. Finally, understand drug testing protocols and procedures if you're in a drug-tested comp. We run a lot of drug-tested competitions here at Ground Zero and at the other various Zero gyms. And in all drug-tested federations, you have to stick around till the end of the competition in case you are drug-tested. And a lot of people don't realize that. And a lot of people don't realize that they've done well in the comp, and then they just leave. And that's treated as avoiding a drug test, which is it's open to sanction. So you can get banned for leaving the competition without getting a drug test because it looks like you're avoiding it. So if you're a coach and you're coaching drug-tested lifters, or if you're a lifter in a drug-tested fed, don't leave until you know you're allowed to leave. Otherwise, you can get yourself in trouble for nothing. You know, you're completely innocent. You haven't taken drugs. I hope you haven't taken drugs if you're in a drug-tested fed. And you walk out, you can get in trouble and look like you're a drug cheat if you're not careful about that. So be aware of that. Now, once more, if you go on the ZeroW website, there is a free powerlifting coaching course, totally free. It's not even a marketing scheme. You're not going to start getting random emails and stuff like that. No strings attached. Jump on there, sign up, do the course at your own pace, completely free. I put that out there because I'm a powerlifting coach and I want to see powerlifting coaches fucking win. I want to see them doing well, getting heaps of clients, making heaps of money, building powerlifting brands, building the sport of powerlifting. I've had the blessing of building a business out of powerlifting, and I want to share my expertise with the world, and that's one way I can sort of give back. So go and enjoy that, and enjoy this podcast, and I'll see you at the next one. Bye.